I had $39,683 saved for a down payment, and I still refused to buy a house. Not because I hate houses, because I ran a 12-month test that showed me the one cost nobody counts. By the end of this video, you'll know the exact way to test if buying makes you richer or traps you. I'm Harry. I'm an inventory coordinator in a distribution warehouse. My gross pay is $53,187 a year. My take-home hits as $3,291 a month. And for years, I heard the same line. Renting is throwing money away. Buying is building equity. Buy now or you'll miss your chance. You've probably heard it too. But pressure isn't a plan. And I noticed something. The loudest voices always sounded urgent, like a deadline. Then my friend Malik bought a townhouse. He was smiling so hard it looked painful. First week, he gave me the tour. Second week, he started talking in numbers, rate, payment, taxes. Third week, he texted me a photo of his water heater. It was leaking. The bill was $1,197. And that's when I remembered a line from the Millionaire next door. Thomas Stanley and William Danko wrote it back in 1996. They kept finding the same pattern in real millionaires. A lot of them didn't buy the biggest house they could qualify for. They bought the house that protected their freedom, not equity. Freedom. So I made a decision. I wasn't going to argue about houses with opinions. I was going to test the reality. I call it the Ghost Homeowner Test. For 12 months, I lived like I owned the place I was supposed to buy, without actually buying it. If you're thinking about buying soon, do this first. Because a mortgage doesn't care about your motivation, it cares about your margin. Here's how I built the test. My rent at the time was $1,487 a month. The starter home I was looking at would have pushed my all-in housing costs near $2,600. And when I say all in, I mean all in. Mortgage, property tax, home insurance, utilities that rise with more space, and the whoops category. Because homes don't break on your schedule, they break on Tuesdays. So I created a second payment, not to a bank, to myself. After rent cleared, I had to pay the ghost mortgage. The difference between owning and renting. I didn't automate it. I wanted to feel it. So on the first Wednesday after my paycheck cleared, at 7:20 p.m., I did 3 manual transfers. One to an account called Taxes and Insurance. One to an account called Repairs. And one to my investing account called Optionality. That last word is the whole mindset. Most people buy a house and hope life cooperates. I wanted my money to cooperate with life. Month 1 looked like this. Rent, $1,487. Ghost mortgage, $893. I split the ghost payment like this. $237 to taxes and insurance, $218 to repairs, $438 to optionality. Total housing outflow, $2,380. That first month taught me something instantly. Owning isn't expensive in theory, it's expensive in rhythm. Because the bill arrives even when your car needs brakes, even when your kid needs braces, even when work cuts your hours. If your margin is thin, you don't feel proud. You feel hunted. Month 2, the test tried to mess with my head. I'd open my banking app and see the money sitting there, and my brain would whisper, skip it this month. That whisper is where people lose. Not because they're lazy, because life is loud. So I made the payment in the same order every time. Taxes and insurance first, repairs second, optionality third. Same day, same time, same clicks. Not to be disciplined, to remove debate. Then month 3 hit. My car made a sound like a coin in a blender. Transmission. The quote was $1,984. Now picture that with a real mortgage. Most people don't have an extra $1,984 just sitting around. So they do what they have to do. They put it on a card, and the house quietly creates new debt. Not because they're irresponsible, because their housing payment ate their breathing room. But I had my repair fund. I paid it. It hurt, but it was handled. And that night, I wrote a sentence in my notes. A house isn't a wealth move if it removes your room for error. Hold that thought, because that sentence is the real reason I refused to buy too early. Month 4, Malik invited me over again. He looked tired, not from work, from managing the position he'd taken on. That's what people don't say out loud. A highly leveraged house is a financial position, and positions require maintenance, not just the roof. Your attention, your calm, your weekends. That month, I added one more thing to my test. I tracked time, because location is money. I wrote down how many minutes I spent commuting, driving for errands, chasing cheaper deals. It sounds small until you add it up. Vicki Robin wrote Your Money or Your Life back in 1992. She treats money like life energy, not dollars. Life energy. So I ran the math. I bring home $3,291. I work about 173 hours a month. That means each hour of my life is worth about $19 after taxes. So Malik's $1,197 water heater bill wasn't $1,197. It was about 63 hours of his life. And it wasn't planned. It ambushed him. That's the hidden cost. The ambush cost. Month 5 is where the test got uncomfortable. Our warehouse changed shift schedules. Overtime got cut. My take-home dropped to $2,948 for that month. Now watch what happens when your housing is heavy. Rent plus ghost payment was still $2,380. On a $2,948 take-home, that left $568 for everything else. Food, gas, phone, life. And even though I could stop the test anytime, my chest still tightened. That was the lesson. If it feels tight in the test, it'll feel brutal in real life. This is where people make a dangerous choice. They commit based on hope. I'll make more. It'll work out. I'll figure it out. But hope isn't margin. Month 6, Malik had another normal problem. His HOA fee went up. Not dramatic, just annoying. But it stacked. And stacking is how people break. One extra fee, then a repair, then a tax increase, then a slow month at work. None of those are disasters, they're life. And life doesn't arrive one event at a time. It arrives in clusters. And now we're at the best reveal. This is the reason I refuse to buy a house before I'm ready. The hidden cost of homeownership isn't the interest. It isn't the taxes. It isn't even maintenance. It's the fragility tax. Fragility tax is what you pay when you have no room for error. When one surprise turns into a chain reaction. When one bill forces you into debt. When one income dip forces you to pause investing. When one bad month forces you to make forced decisions. And forced decisions are expensive. Morgan Housel wrote, The Psychology of Money in 2020. He keeps coming back to one idea. Room for error is the magic. Not being right, not timing perfectly, room for error. And it lines up with what Stanley saw in The Millionaire Next Door. Real wealth isn't big moves. It's survival. It's staying in the game. It's not getting knocked out by normal life. The Federal Reserve's Household Survey says this plainly. A lot of adults would struggle with an unexpected $400 expense. Not because they're stupid, because their money has no slack. A thin margin mortgage is a slack destroyer. Here's how I proved fragility to myself with my own numbers. Month 3, transmission bill, $1,984. Month 5, income drop, $343 less take-home. Month 6, Malik's HOA increase plus his water heater bill. That's not a doomsday scenario. That's 3 normal events. But if you buy with thin margin, 3 normal events become one big problem. You borrow, you stop investing, you delay repairs, you live on edge, and then you call it adulting. No, that's fragility. So I made a rule. If a house payment forces you to reduce your investing to 0, you can't afford the house. If it forces you to live without a repair fund, you can't afford the house. If it forces you to pray your income never changes, you can't afford the house. That's the millionaire mindset, not never buy, fragile. From that moment, the Ghost Homeowner Test changed. It stopped being a punishment. It became proof. Because every month I kept paying myself, my accounts became my safety. Taxes and insurance kept growing. Repairs kept growing. Optionality kept growing. And optionality did something powerful. It made me calm. While Malik was stressed about rates and fees, I had a different conversation with money. What do I want? What do I value? What options am I buying? By month 9, my optionality account crossed $3,095. My repair fund was $1,130. My taxes and insurance bucket was $2,148. They're life-changing in private because those numbers mean you can handle surprises without borrowing. They mean you can say no. They mean you can wait, and waiting is how you win. Month 10, I saw something else. I wasn't throwing money away by renting. I was buying flexibility. When my company posted an internal opening at a different facility, I applied. It paid more, but it was farther. If I owned a house, that choice would have been heavy. Commute, selling costs, stress, because a mortgage makes you sticky. But I rented, so it was a clean decision. I got the role. My gross pay moved to $54,972. My take-home became $3,347. And weirdly, that didn't make me want to buy more. It made me want margin more, because I finally saw how wealth is built, not by one big purchase, by staying liquid long enough to make good moves repeatedly. Month 12, I ended the test and asked the only question that matters. Do I want to buy a home? Or do I want to buy safety? Because those aren't always the same purchase. Here's my conclusion. I refuse to buy a house until I can buy it without fragility. Until the house is a tool, not a trap. Until the payment doesn't control my choices. So what does ready actually mean? Not a vibe. Not, my friends are doing it. A structure. My personal structure is 3 rules. And these 3 rules are one idea, room for error. First, my all-in housing cost has to stay under 1/4 of my take-home. Not because a ratio is magic, because I lived the opposite. And the opposite felt like a cage. Second, before I buy, I want a full year of housing payments in cash. Not, I have a line of credit. Cash, because emergencies don't ask politely. Third, even after I buy, my investing doesn't stop. Because stopping investing is how you become house rich and life poor. Now, let's make this useful for you. If you're torn between renting and buying, don't guess. Run the Ghost Homeowner Test for 90 days. Pick the home you think you want. Estimate your all-in monthly cost. Subtract your rent. That difference is your ghost mortgage. And for 90 days, pay it to yourself in 3 buckets: taxes and insurance, repairs, optionality. Do it manually, same day, same time. Make it real. If you can do it for 90 days and still feel calm, you're not ready to buy. You're ready to choose. And if you can't do it without stress, you just saved yourself from a contract you would have regretted. Because the goal isn't to own a house. The goal is to own your time, to own your choices, to own your calm. A house can be part of that, but only when it doesn't steal the very thing you're trying to build. If you feel behind because you don't own yet, I get it. I felt it too. But the market doesn't reward people who rush. It rewards people who survive. So build margin, build optionality, build room for error. Then, if you want the house, buy it like a millionaire. On your terms. Because you ran the test, you saw the truth, and you chose freedom.